In the early 17th century, the Dutch East India Company, VOC, was the world's most powerful trading empire. Its ships crossed the globe in search of spices, silk, and gold. Among these mighty vessels was the Batavia, a grand ship launched in 1628, carrying nearly 340 people and a fortune in silver bound for Java. Commanding her was Francisco Pelsaert, a strict company man. His skipper, Arjen Jacobs, however, was reckless and arrogant, a sailor with a grudge. Tension simmered between the two from the very beginning. Among the passengers was Jeronymus Cornelisz, a disgraced apothecary fleeing bankruptcy and scandal. Charismatic, manipulative, and secretly an atheist in a deeply religious time, Cornelisz would soon turn disaster into opportunity and paradise into a blood-soaked nightmare. Before we begin, if you love uncovering hidden dramatic moments from history, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment with your thoughts. It really helps us bring you more stories like this one. From the moment the Batavia left the Dutch port of Texel, the ship was cursed by conflict. Jacobs and Cornelisz bonded over their hatred for Pelsaert. They began to whisper of mutiny, to seize the Batavia, kill the officers, and steal the company's treasure. But before their plan could take shape, fate struck. On June 4, 1629, the Batavia, traveling off course due to navigational errors, smashed into a hidden reef in the Houtman of Brolhos, a chain of small coral islands off the coast of Western Australia. The mighty ship groaned, split apart, and began to sink. Hundreds of passengers were thrown into the churning sea. By dawn, survivors clung to the coral rocks and tiny islands. There was little water, no food, and no shelter from the scorching sun. Dozens drowned in the chaos. Others perished on the razor-sharp coral. Captain Pelsaert and skipper Jacobs took a small boat and, astonishingly, managed to reach the mainland, then sailed over 2,800 miles north to Batavia, modern-day Jakarta, to seek help. But before leaving, Pelsaert promised to return, and he left Jeronymus Cornelisz in charge of the survivors. It was a fatal mistake. Cornelisz quickly took control, presenting himself as the leader. But his charm masked something monstrous. With no sign of rescue, he began to see the stranded survivors as expendable, obstacles to his own survival and thirst for power. He disarmed the soldiers, hoarded supplies, and created his own twisted regime. He surrounded himself with loyal followers, sailors and thugs willing to kill for bread and water. Then, the murders began. At first, Cornelisz ordered the weak and sick to be removed, executed under the guise of ration control, but soon it spiraled into pure slaughter. Men, women, and children were drowned, stabbed, or strangled. Entire families were wiped out. The islands turned red with blood. Over the next weeks, more than 120 people were murdered, one of the most horrific mass killings in early colonial history. Cornelisz ruled as a self-proclaimed god. He dressed in stolen finery, drank stolen wine, and held orgies among the wreckage of the Batavia, all while plotting to kill any future rescuers and seize their ship to continue his original mutiny plan. But he had one problem: the soldiers. Before Cornelisz seized full control, a small group of soldiers led by Wiebbe Hayes, a humble but brave corporal, had been sent to a nearby island to search for water. Cornelisz thought he had exiled them to die. Instead, Hayes and his men found fresh water. And when word reached them of the slaughter, they armed themselves with makeshift weapons and prepared to fight back. When Cornelisz sent men to finish them off, Hayes's group ambushed the killers. They became the only resistance to his reign of terror. It was survival against insanity. For weeks, the two sides clashed in brutal skirmishes across the Coral Islands. Hayes's men, armed with sticks and stones, fought off Cornelisz's killers again and again. Then, one day on the horizon, sails appeared. Pelsaert had returned. But before the rescue could reach shore, Cornelisz tried one last desperate attack, hoping to capture the rescue boat and take over the new ship. Hayes's men fought fiercely, capturing Cornelisz himself and turning him over to Pelsaert. When Pelsaert saw what had happened in his absence, he was horrified. The once innocent passengers of the Batavia had become murderers and monsters. He held summary trials right there on the islands. The guilty were tortured and executed, their crimes carved into history. Jeronymus Cornelisz, the self-proclaimed ruler of the islands, had his hands chopped off before being hanged. His followers met the same fate, their bodies left hanging as a warning to future voyagers. Only a few dozen survivors were finally rescued and brought to Batavia. Of the 341 people who left the Netherlands, fewer than 120 made it out alive. The Batavia's wreck and massacre became a cautionary tale across the seas, a reminder that even in paradise, the greatest danger comes not from nature, but from within. Today, the remains of the Batavia lie preserved off the coast of Western Australia. Its reconstructed hull sits proudly in a museum in the Netherlands, a silent witness to the greed, madness, and humanity that clashed in one of the darkest shipwreck stories ever told. The past never dies. It only waits to be told. Thanks for watching.